Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. I look forward to this discussion. This is the first time I've given this sort of talk, and I don't know what to expect because the subject is a little bit of everything. Some of it is sad, some of it is crazy, some of it is funny. There's real science, there's pseudoscience, there's a strange mixture. But let's start with probably the best known thing. How many of you have seen the movie 2012? You have my sympathy. For those who might not have, let's take a look at the original trailer. And I'm going to show it because of the written message, which I think is appalling. Now, there are two things that bother me about that. Not the computer graphics, that's pretty nice. But the message that the government wouldn't tell you if anything bad were going to happen. This is an incessant, repeated message. And since I work for the government, obviously, I can't be trusted. And the other is the way you find out the truth is to Google 2012. I recommend that any of you Google 2012. You will find thousands and thousands of pseudoscience web pages, and occasionally something real sandwiched in between. And they knew that when this movie came out. It's my understanding that the movie was not originally entitled 2012. They had it starting production before they were alerted to the fact that on the internet, for instance, there was all this story about Doomsday. If you look at the movie, you'll find it hardly mentions 2012. It doesn't mention Nibiru or alignments or any of these things. They just took advantage of a pre-existing campaign of fear about 2012. And then they made their own contribution. They set up what I've come to know is called a viral website, by analogy with computer viruses. Maybe you all knew about it, but I'm an innocent. This is a completely fake thing that is set up for advertisements or the webs that indirectly supports a product. And I want you to see what they have for the Institute for Human Continuity. These ads started appearing on television just about the same time as the movie ads.
In 1978, a small group of the world's most powerful business leaders and former government officials held a summit to assess possible threats to humankind. Top scientists outlined historical evidence indicating that in the year 2012, a series of factors would align, resulting in the destruction of the entire world. The scientists also concluded that these events could not be prevented. Those at the summit agreed to invest significant resources in the formation of an international committee. This group became known as the Institute for Human Continuity. For the next 30 years, the IHC operated in secret, carrying out tests in hundreds of field locations and covert research centers around the world. In 2004, two scientists, Professor Frederick West and Dr. Satnam Suratani, confirmed the odds of global destruction were projected at 94% and advised that specific survival preparations must begin immediately to ensure the survival of a small population. In 2008, it was agreed that the IHC would go public, calling for the establishment of a random lottery that would give all humans an equal shot at survival. The Institute for Human Continuity, ensuring the end is just the beginning.
Now, if I imagine most of you are pretty sophisticated, but if you were just watching that on television, would you see anything there to suggest it was an ad for a movie? There's nothing. There's no mention of the movie, of the Sony Corporation, or anything. And this and its subsequent ads continued for month after month. Finally, I take some responsibility for publicizing this. And then suddenly, almost overnight, the ads were changed. They said part of the movie experience 2012, copyright Sony Corporation, and so forth. But for the better part of a year, this was shown as though it were real. There are also people interested in 2012 who apparently can read. The last time I counted, there were more than 250 separate books listed on Amazon.com. About Doomsday 2012. I got into this through a service I'd started several years earlier of answering questions from the public, sent to NASA's Astrobiology Institute, and a website called Ask an Astrobiologist. And my first questions about Doomsday 2012 came in December of 2007. And they just built. First it was one a week. Pretty soon it was one a day. It peaked at 10 questions a day. It's now dropped down to 6 or 7 a day, of people who were curious or frightened or one way or another were seriously worried about the end of the world in 2012. We tried all sorts of ways to inform them. There's a special section on the website. It's right up at the top. It says, read this first. I don't think many people do, because the same kind of questions are coming in now that did 2 years ago. I suggested what might happen if you Googled 2012. Well, there are several versions of 2012. I'm pleased to say that on this one, if you Google Nibiru 2012, you will actually see my website as the 4th thing listed, along with all the pseudoscience. So maybe there's hope. I just discovered a wonderful website. If you want to look at another one besides mine, a bunch of astronomers put this together. That's just called 2012 Hoax. And it is subdivided in detail. You can look up each and every person, rumor, idea, and get a sort of one-page summary of it. But I'm going to now start talking a little bit more about the substance. Where could this idea have come from that the world will end on December 21st, 2012? In fact, what kind of thinking could even be behind end of the world? Most of these people don't say, oh, there will be some earthquakes or there'll be some problem. They say it will be the end of the world. Or it will be the end of time, which is even more scary, because that suggests the whole universe will go away. And one of the mysteries to me is how many people don't immediately see a cognitive dissonance with the idea of the end of the world. I mean, the planet's been here for 4 billion years. There's been life on Earth for almost 4 billion years. You take that long perspective and you say, oh, but it's all going to be over in 3 years. And I think there's a little something wrong. Anyway, if you want to blame anybody, I'll blame these 4 people, and we'll talk about each of them in turn. Starting with Nancy Lieder. Now, she is a psychic who channels messages from the inhabitants of a planet around the star Zeta Reticuli, which she calls Zetans, and her website is called Zeta Talk. She's been doing this for at least 15 years, and these Zetans send all sorts of messages to the people of Earth. She has time and time again, she is never wrong. The Zetans are never wrong. She has never made a mistake. But one thing she did do is predict that the world would end, or very nearly end, by a near collision with a planet called Nibiru on May 23rd, 2003. And right up to 1 week before then, her website was still saying, oh, you can't see it, but yes, it's coming, and it'll be here. Did any of you remember March 23rd, or May 23rd, whatever it was, 2003? Did the world end? I don't think so. She pushed reset, and now said, oh, that was not a mistake. The Zetans were just testing us. It's really going to happen on December 21st, 2012. Now, I don't know how much influence this has had, but it is really where the Doomsday prediction came from these poor folks on Zeta Reticuli who are trying to save the world. Then there's Zecharia Sitchin. You'll notice, by the way, if you look under his picture and on the title of his book, there's some question about how you spell his name. He apparently isn't certain himself. He has been for 30-some years saying that he is the world's greatest scholar of Mesopotamian religions and history and astronomy, and that he alone has figured out how to translate many of the records from the ancient Sumerians, and that they are dominated by stories of a planet god called Nibiru, which comes by the Earth every 3,600 years, and when it came 2 orbits ago, it brought the birth of civilization to humanity. And it's coming back the winter of 2012.